Morning. Hey there, good morning, guys and gals. All right, so I'm just waiting for Jeanine and Art Talk Live to join us this morning. There they are. Okay, let's see. Art Talk, I see you. Give me one quick sec. I think Jeanine was trying to find the right glasses for this one. I issues coming in, but I think she'll be here any moment. I think she may be in now, actually. Hey there.
Hi, how are you?
So good. So good.
Oh, great. It's so great to see you again.
It's wonderful to see you also. How are you
Thanks
doing?
for doing this. It's so much fun.
Yeah. How are you doing today? I know you were
I'm
partying
really good.
last night.
I'm in Margate in Kent, which is a seaside town. It's like an hour and a half from London, and I live here and we have a gallery here. So today I went to an artist studio called Billy Childish. She's a painter. And now I've come home to talk with you guys.
Oh,
And
nice.
sadly, Russell was going to be here, but he's sadly been called off somewhere, so he can't be with us. So it's just
Oh,
going to be me with you guys. But
that's okay.
I have Jean-Michel with us as well in spirit.
Jean-Michel is always with us. Where is mine? Where is mine?
It's a
He's
beautiful
always
catalogue.
here. He's
Yeah, I
always
loved it so much. And it's literally been on my desk here where I record ever since we spoke.
really.
Yeah, I look at it all the time.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was an incredible act of love, somewhat of a love letter to Jean-Michel for Jeanine and I. So it feels really good that you received it that way. You
Yeah.
know, that
Well,
it's
the thing I love about it is all the descriptions. Because having done a book ourselves, like we've done 2 books, and I know how time consuming image research is, making sure you have like the high enough res quality, all that stuff, but also like the image captions. And no one who buys a book ever understands
I
that those
know what
tiny
goes
little
into it.
text. Yeah. And
Yeah,
in your book, it's all like written by you and your sister, and it's so personal and like thoughtful and heartfelt. I love it.
thank you, thank you. It's funny because before Janine's asking to be accepted in, so I'm looking for her. Uh, Janine, I don't know. Uh, you're gonna have to text me your handle or something because I don't see you in here. Sorry, guys. Um, it's interesting. Before we wrote this book, we were, people would be writing books and we didn't fully understand the process for both writing it and then also for pulling all those images together and all the descriptions and all of those things that go into it.
Right.
So it certainly humbled us. Uh, it certainly humbled us and uh, gave us a whole different perspective on how to uh sorry, I'm just trying to get Janine in here on how to on what the process that actually goes into it, and
Yeah.
how much work it takes and how much consideration it takes for space and for words and that kind of thing. So that is just one of the things that Janine and I both learned during this process.
For real, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. I see Lee there. While Jeanine is coming in, I invited her in, so she should be in any moment, I'm hoping. Um,
Can you still see me?
I can see you, yes, for sure.
Because I can't see myself anymore. It's really weird.
Oh, no.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. As long as you can see me.
Yeah, we
Um,
so
yeah.
I mean,
The
first of
other
all,
great thing about the
we may
oh,
want to
sorry.
tell people who you are,
Oh
for
yeah, of
those who
course.
don't know.
My name is Robert Diamant, and I am a co-host of Talk Art podcast with Russell Tovey, who's a well-known actor and getting actually more famous in America now. He's about to be in the Truman Capote dramatization, which is with Ryan Murphy Productions, coming out in America, I think, in February.
Mhm.
So that's very exciting. And yeah.
And you all celebrated. I was teasing you in the beginning because you celebrated 5 years. Was it last night that you had a party?
Yeah, we had a big party in London on Saturday night, and it was really incredible. We had like 130 of our friends, but it was kind of a crazy time to do a party because it was December when everyone's doing parties or everyone's traveling because a lot of the art world are in Miami, Basel, or like not even in the UK. And we
Mhm.
hosted it in London at a really beautiful restaurant called Top Class, and yeah, it was really really fun, and it was just like an amazing kind of bringing together of all like a lot of the guests, and I mean not everyone sadly because not everyone's in London, but it was
Yeah,
just a fun way of marking something that's quite an achievement in both our lives, I guess.
yeah. It looked amazing. Hey, Jeanine, there you are.
Hey,
Hey.
Hi.
It looked.
how are you?
Can you see us? Yeah.
I was in the wrong account. Okay.
Oh, well, there you go. It's all good.
We were just
So,
talking about your beautiful book, and I was saying that not only I love it because it's so personal, because you two were so involved in all the notes and everything on
Thank
every
you.
image, but also I love the idea of books being a kind of extension of the exhibition. Because like I haven't been to LA in the time the show's been on, sadly, so I haven't seen the show in person, but I feel like I've seen it through the book. And I luckily went to Vienna and saw the show in Vienna, which was prior to this, but I got to see a lot of Jean-Michel's work, recently. So for me, having the book is such an amazing kind of insight into all the personal artifacts and everything. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
The intention was really to kind of make sort of like a scrapbook, of our lives and, the lives of our families. So
Cool.
thank you for that. It really, really was very personal and cathartic to write. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So Russell isn't able to join with us, so it's just going to be
Back.
the three of us. Um, and I know we're going to talk about the exhibition and all of that. I see there are a ton of comments coming through. If you have any questions, if we have time at the end, we'll certainly answer them. But for now, what I wanted to take a moment to do was to acknowledge the fact that Talk Art just celebrated 5 years. Jeanine, I know you know that. They had this big celebration on Saturday. And
Amazing.
we all got it. That's the wonderful thing about social media is that we get to kind of follow people from afar. And one of the things that I read in your caption about that event and about the celebration was that you both thanked your mums,
Oh,
Yeah.
because they were the ones who inspired you to start it. So what can we start with that? I'd love to hear something about that because that's the family story, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We're both super privileged in the sense that like we get on with our families, and that our families, even though both of us took career paths that weren't necessarily what our families envisioned for us, because I was originally a pop musician and Russell wanted to be an actor and was acting from a young age. So we both had these, when we met, we were 28 years old and we got introduced by Tracy Emin, the artist. And at that point, I had a successful music career, he had a successful acting career, but our families had really been crucial in supporting us and saying they believed in us, even if they were scared and cautious, but they still stood by us. And I think a lot of people don't have that experience. So like, I'm really aware that's a massive privilege, but I'm really grateful to particularly our mothers because they were the ones that suggested we did the show. And we
Mm,
honestly, between us, were like, why would we do a show? Like, this is a silly idea. And then I interviewed Russell for something else. And my mum heard it and she said, you guys have an amazing chemistry. Like when you talk to each other, I've never heard you two speaking. And I didn't realize that's what your friendship is. And we didn't realize. And then we went and interviewed my mum's favourite artist, who's Michael Craig Martin, who taught a lot of the young British artists back in the early 90s. So he was a very influential British artist. And we went to his studio and interviewed him. And I sent it to my mum and she was like, this is exactly what I meant. Like, you should just release this. So then we released it and it became a show. And now 300 episodes later, 19 seasons, we've had like over 7 million unique downloads. It's just wild. Like, it's changed our lives for the better. It's just been a wonderful thing, but it was kind of an accident. It wasn't planned.
That is amazing. And it's amazing that you are able to connect and work with someone that you have that rapport with, and that you can kind of, you know, bounce back and forth with, and have great conversations. So
yeah, you know what's really funny is that we bonded over Tracy Emin drawing titles. So we both had an obsession with drawings, and at that point when we met, nobody knew her drawings, so they weren't really documented. But we'd both gone into the galleries and done research, and like we'd learnt the titles, so we actually like were riffing off all these drawing titles, and the people around us thought we were crazy. But I love in the book as well, the Jean-Michel book, the fact that this show that you guys have curated, King Pleasure, which is currently on in LA, has so many artifacts like drawings, you know, from Jean-Michel's hand. And it's exactly the kind of work Russell and I love. There's one from the subway car where you think Jean-Michel did it when he was sitting on the subway car, and it's got like a man floating with a balloon. I love this one so much. And that is the kind of work that Russell and I bonded over. Like, we always loved seeing the artist's hand. And, you know, seeing, but no, it's not even the paintings. Like, I love the paintings, of course, but it's like this idea of like, where does genius come from, you know? Right. And often it's just within these people, whether it's like a songwriter or, you know, I love looking at like song lyrics when people handwrite the lyrics. You know, they sometimes sell them at auction, and you can like see Elton John's like lyrics, or Bernie Taupin's, or, you know, whoever it is. But I love it so much.
Yeah, Lisane and I always talk about how, you know, the paintings are fabulous, and they do, you know, stop you in your tracks when you see them. But when you actually see the work on paper, the drawings, and you see all the little detail that he puts into them, you know, not only just, you know, little sketches, but also the words and all the things that he means in them, you can really sit in front of a drawing for a long time and really try to, and really understand, you know, what he was going through at the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we need to showcase a lot more of those in the future.
Yeah.
You know, as well, I think for me, it's like the universe. It's like Jean-Michel's universe. And the thing I love about artists is when they obviously reference the world around them and the society around them, and they're often predicting, you know, political things before even politicians are, because they're actually living the experience,
exactly.
the real experience. But what I love is when they then create their own universe, and they get their own language. And I think Jean-Michel had that from a really young age. I remember when we interviewed you, and you were both talking about childhood and how he was obsessed with cartoons, and he would often draw. And I think I love the way that then continued the whole way through his life, all the way to the canvas.
Yeah, yeah. So much of what he's talking about in those drawings, for me, kind of takes me back to that time, because he was really talking about what he saw. And a lot of it was like what was happening on Wall Street at the time, and kind of the difference between, you know, the kind of more traditional paths to life and those who made other decisions. And I think that's one of the things that's so intriguing about Jean-Michel as an artist and as someone who's speaking about the world around him, is that he said a lot of the things that people were thinking, or he wrote a lot of the things that people were actually thinking, but didn't really, you know, pull together. You know, he did it in a different way. And I think that that's why people are so intrigued with him. And that's why he continues to be a voice that really matters, and that really shares the human story. Yeah, Lee Jaffe just mentioned that he was a great poet, and he really was. You know, he was. You know, I always look at Jean-Michel as an artist for sure, but he was a painter, he was a poet, he was a writer. He, you know, he drew. He just, you know, was just a creative person.
Yeah, I think also it's really interesting to think about how music played such a big part in his life.
Absolutely.
And you know, last week Russell and I were very kindly invited to go and see Madonna by herself. So we sat front row, and we were right in the middle, and she performed like right in front of us. It was just wild.
Oh, wow.
But I was really touched in that performance about how she was talking about living to tell, and this remembrance of all the artists that were lost in the 80s through the AIDS crisis, which is obviously, you know, Keith Haring, and there were so many of her friends and teachers and all kinds of people that died. But it got me thinking about this connection to how Keith, you know, Jean-Michel, how everyone was so connected to music at that time. And like, I love all the references to like Grace Jones and all the different jazz musicians and the kind of like, it's loads of different histories of music, but particularly the musicians he was surrounded by. And for me, that generation of songwriter, even Madonna, like Madonna is an extraordinary songwriter and she's a great lyricist. And I think words were so important to that generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's, you know, you talked about our earlier conversation earlier in the year. I wanted to know, can you share some takeaways from that conversation that we all had together?
Yeah, it was one of my most favorite episodes we've ever done because
Oh my God.
Jean-Michel for me was one of the artists that kind of got me into art when I was a kid, and also Keith Haring. And I went to Keith's studio the other day in New York with Gil Vasquez, who's also got the estate, and I cried. I was just in the studio, and there's something about Jean-Michel and Keith Haring that changed my life as a 5-year-old child. Like I was just, you know, seeing these images and it sort of brought art to life for me in such a profound and poetic way, actually. And then meeting you both, you know, virtually, of course, but it was so touching because the King Pleasure exhibition that you put together, it's just so unique. It's nothing like that's been staged before. And I was really interested in the way that you brought over like 200 works that like most people had never seen before. And just this kind of detail and attention to sort of care to like protect his legacy and to show the human behind the work and not just like, you know, this iconic celebrity artist that we all grew up loving, of course, because that's one tiny part of who Jean-Michel was. But I feel like I love just the intensity of the personal, empathetic kind of family connection. And that was the thing I took away, you know, from it.
Thank you.
And that really was the, you know, the intention behind the entire thing. You know, having a conversation with our stepmother and acknowledging that we had works that were just sitting around that we needed for the public to see. And also we needed for the public to hear, you know, the narrative about the family and how, you know, we've stayed really private for a long time, you know, by choice. But then we realized that there were a lot of, you know, personal details about Jean-Michel that people didn't really know and understand. And, you know, it's almost as if people thought that he just walked away from his family and, you know, never to be seen again. And we felt that it was important to include that, you know, that piece to the whole puzzle. So, you know, it was, I do remember it was a great conversation that we had, the four of us. You know, I think we went, you know, way over time because it was, you know, it was like, you know, talking with friends. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, of course. It was honestly, it was such a privilege, and people can still listen to it. It's on the podcast still. I love that about podcasts, that it's kind of an evergreen archive in a way, and it can be activated at any point, and it's free to listen to. And I think it's over an hour. I think we spoke for like an hour and a half or something.
We talked.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation. So if you're on here and have an interest in hearing more about that conversation that took place on the Talk Art podcast, please do find that episode and any others, because it's such a great, it's almost like this little gift that you get to have this opportunity to gain insight into a conversation between friends where they're just riffing on different topics and different artists and things. And so if you do have an opportunity, please do listen to that podcast that is just celebrating 5 years, which is an amazing accomplishment. You know, congratulations for that. What's next for the Talk Art? So I understand are you guys doing another book, or I hear something going on?
We're currently talking about possibly doing a kid's book. We're going to see, because a friend of mine wrote a book that was trying to encourage young activists. They have a platform called Everyday Racism. It's two sisters who actually live here in Margate called Natalie and Naomi, and they're amazing. And they wrote this amazing book, which I read, and I was like really learning from it as an adult. And it suddenly struck me that like young people can get into politics through art, because I did, you know. And that's what Jean-Michel was so skilled at, was like talking truth to power and kind of, you know, talking about social issues that people didn't want to talk about at a time when it was really bold and kind of brave and, you know, strong to actually have the energy even to like do that. And I just think it's a really important thing to try and activate young minds and realize that you can express yourself. You can speak how you feel through being creative. And that often is making a painting or a drawing, or maybe not, maybe doing another creative discipline. But I think we're brainstorming at the moment, and we've got hopefully someone who might want to make it with us. So this kind of idea of like, education. I think we never even really consciously thought about education when I was growing up, like in my 20s or whatever. But I think now I'm 43, you sort of realize that I've got to where I am because of education. And it sometimes sounds really boring to talk about, but I think if we can make it fun and like, really engage young people, and because really that, I think that can keep you alive and participating and taking part. So yeah, hopefully we'll do.
I agree. I look at some of Jean-Michel's drawings. I mean, one of the things that's in the exhibition in the vitrine is our copies of the school newsletter that Jean-Michel was the illustrator for. And it's kind of mind blowing because Jean-Michel's our brother, right? So we always think about him as our brother. But when I look at some of the sketchbooks that Jean-Michel had that we have on display in the exhibition that he did when he was 17 years old. He was 17 years old, giving, sharing his thoughts and his feelings and his dissatisfaction in some ways with what was happening in the world with adults, like the ways that adults were treating the world or treating, some of the things that were going on. And so I think that I think it's really important to tap into that aspect of youth, that, those bright new thoughts, because they are looking at the world from a fresh perspective. So I agree with you. I think that education should be more fun, more free, more creative, and we should encourage people and young students and young people overall to really express who they are, because I think that there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot there that's lost.
I've been really interested recently as well in the power of the image, so the power of the artwork without words to educate as well. Like I've never thought about visual literacy and how much it's trying, the governments around the world in different nations, like there's all kinds of countries that are trying to crack down on books, on art, on arts education, on performance education, the theatre, all that stuff. And the reason they're doing it is because that's what wakes people up. You know what I mean?
That's the gateway to freedom.
That visual literacy is so important. And that's what I'm talking about. When I was a kid, seeing Jean-Michel's work, it was the work that was speaking to me. I wasn't reading about it. I didn't read art critics, what they thought about Jean-Michel. I was connecting to the kind of, the passion and the drive within the work. And that's a really important thing for people to be able to look and see and learn just by looking,
Absolutely.
So.
Correct. And also, it also helps those that are not interested in a traditional career path. Not everyone is meant to be a lawyer, accountant, doctor. There are a lot of people that are very creative, and to see other artists that they are influenced by, who look like them, who sound like them, who speak to them, is very, very important and very powerful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And the them is, it could be anything, right? The them could be people who are just more creative. I think when we were younger, it was, you were either in a suit, in a suit with a tie and, a white shirt or a light blue shirt, or you were a beatnik, so it was one or the other. And I think today, one of the things that makes careers and profession more inviting is the fact that people are a little more comfortable in their skin to put their attention on the things that are important to them. And that, there are people who are in, hardcore business who love that or who do great in that, but there are so many other ways to live your life today. And I think that one of the things that I'm most proud of Jean-Michel for is his contribution to helping people to know that,
Well, it's really unlocking their potential, I think. I really think his most generous gift is like making people feel stronger somehow,
absolutely.
And that they can also speak up and, say what's wrong in the world, and not be afraid of that. And I also think the importance of exhibition making, like, you guys staging this epic exhibition in LA is such a generous act in itself. Like, the amount of people that are getting to see it, and all the education, that goes along with that, like all the school tours and all of these things. Like, it's just, people forget how important it is. And even that's under threat at the moment. It's not even just arts education that's under threat. Like, even exhibition staging or making is getting more expensive and harder. So
it's very expensive, and it's not, it's very expensive, and it really does take a commitment. You have to really want to do it. You have to really want to do it and be willing to invest in it, both, financially and time and energy and all of that. And, art education is something, and art, having people get exposure to art and culture is very important to Jeanine and I, and to our family. And so we're really happy and proud to have had the opportunity to pull this exhibition together and to have it go, from New York, and then, to visit LA, and to share Jean-Michel with people who may not otherwise feel comfortable going into a white wall museum to see his art. And so that we were very intentional about that, about wanting to make sure that people felt welcome in the space. That said, we were in New York for 8 months, and we extended and are in LA until the 1st of January. And then this project for us is done, so that we can do other things and go and start to imagine, what's next and what else we can do in support of Jean-Michel. And it's been, so we're kind of starting, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to chat with you and Russell, Robert, because we've had some amazing experiences during this run, and have had the blessing and the privilege to speak with amazing people who are doing incredible things. I just saw a note that you all, for your podcast, were recently, where is it? #1. There you are. #1 in the US and UK Apple podcast charts recently. That is badass.
It was crazy, I know. And it's so wild to think that, like, there's just people all over the world listening. We looked the other day, and we're in something like 154 countries now. Wow. And it's just like, how is that even possible? But it's wild. But it's really nice that America's waking up to the show a bit, because we had really nice coverage in the New York Times a while ago that really helped bring a lot of people to the show. But recently we started interviewing, like, Roberta Smith and Jerry Saltz, and like all these different American kind of voices, and a number of artists. We interviewed an artist called Taboo, who actually was around in New York at the same time as Jean-Michel. He was part of the kind of very creative, like, Klaus Nomi kind of scene down at the Pyramid Club. But Taboo's a real character, and Taboo's still painting and making great art. But yeah, so it's been really such an amazing, mind-blowing moment to be #1 in the arts chart. Yeah, super cool.
How does that feel? I mean, how does it feel for you all to kind of have your own creative journeys, and then to have your mom support you in pulling this thing together with your friend, and now to have it go from that to 5 years later being #1?
I mean, in a way, it's just like, it kind of feels like over there. Like, it doesn't always feel that real. And for us, it's just like, we love making the show. And the other day we did an interview for the first time in a while, because Russell's been filming. So we haven't been recording as much, but we had lots already banked. But we finished recording, and I called him after a 2-hour conversation, and was like, that's the best one we've ever done. Like, it's always like so exciting. And for us, that's what it's about. It's about the conversation. And we were doing that anyway in our friendship. We were visiting artist studios and hanging out with artists, calling each other daily. So in a way, it's just our life. But it's wonderful that it's documented, recorded, and then able to share, and in a way educate other people, and also they're in on the conversation. And it's only when I go to London that I get on the train, and if I talk, often people then go, oh my God, you're that guy from that podcast, and then you get stopped, and that's a bit surreal. But apart from that, we're just doing it because we love it. And I think that's the most important thing.
I think that is the most important thing. I think that, I think that anyone who creates something, like, if your heart is in it, people know, they see it, they feel it, and you feel energized by it. And I think that it's really important to to allow people around you, as your parents did, your moms did, to allow people to do the thing that is in their heart, the thing that feels good to them, because they'll do
And
it well.
also, we're total nerds and geeks, and things that we love are like discovering all the archival photographs of an artist's life, if they're an artist that's no longer with us. And for example, in your book, I just loved the variety of photographs to show sides of Jean-Michel I'd never seen before. And a lot of them are really personal family photographs, but you really get this sense of him being really thoughtful, really reflective, but also really funny and really cool and really stylish.
All of
And,
that.
even like walking down the catwalk for Comme des Garçons. I mean, there were so many moments in his life. He just did like extraordinary things. But there's one of him, I think, in a car or something with headphones on. He's just grinning, and you can just see this kind of pure like joy he had within him, at that point in his life. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like it really, that for me is like so exciting, getting to see all those photos.
Absolutely. I know we're coming short on time. We have a couple of things to say about what's happening at the exhibition, but before we do that, what's coming up for you all next? What should we make sure that people know about what's happening for you?
We've just got a new book out called Talk Art the Interviews, which has, I think, like 24 interviews in it with all kinds of people. So it's got like everyone from Sir Elton John all the way to like Sonia Boyce, who won the Turner Prize a few years ago, I think, and she represented Britain at the Venice Biennale. And then it's also got totally brand new artists who are in their like late 20s, early 30s, people you'll never have heard of yet, maybe. So it's a really great range of different guests. And it's fully illustrated, and that's out now, and it's just come out in the States as well. And we signed copies of both of our books at the New Museum in New York, and the Strand Bookstore and Barnes and Noble. So like our books are out now in America, which is really exciting. And
you signed them? You're saying these are autographed copies?
Yeah, there's autographed copies in the New Museum, which is in the Lower East Side, I think, kind of like Bowery, whatever. Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's exciting. And
New York,
and we're
listen to that.
continuing to make a new series as well, so we're never stopping. And we've got loads of other projects we can't talk about yet, sadly. But Russell's going to be in Truman Capote, the new TV series, which I think will be on Disney Plus maybe, with Ryan Murphy. So that comes out in February. And he's also just shooting a few other like big shows for Disney. So it's very exciting times.
Congratulations for all of that. We're really, really happy for you.
Thank you.
Now, there's people on here that are asking about that earlier podcast. What is the title so that they can get back to it?
If they look up Talk Art and the word Basquiat, then you'll find it, because it's your names basically. I think it's like Jean-Michel Basquiat Estate, and then it's got both of your names.
All right.
Well, there you go. Basquiat
Talk Art. It's just 3 words basically. Talk Art Basquiat.
You gotta remember that.
And you can get it anywhere. It's on Spotify, Google, Apple. It's like everywhere, and it's free to listen to, so you don't even need to pay. You can just Google it now and find it.
Yeah, absolutely. And please subscribe, like and subscribe the podcast, and continue to support these 2 amazing creatives. So we have some.
Yeah, tell us about your news.
Our news is that we are closing on January 1st in Los Angeles.
It's the last chance.
And that's it. We are not going anywhere else. The Jean-Michel Basquiat King Pleasure exhibition chapter is ending, and it's bittersweet for us. We're down to a couple of weeks, and so if you've not, it's always so hard when, or a little frustrating when we leave and then people are like, oh my gosh, I wanted to get to New York and you left. And now I know there are people who are going to be like, oh my gosh, I wanted to get to go see it and you left. We're leaving on January 1st. Believe us. We have a couple of other things. We're having a book signing at the King Pleasure Emporium this Wednesday, December 13th from 6 to 8. You'll be enjoying music by DJ Mona Lisa, and there'll be a 30% off sale on selected items in the Emporium to help you with your Christmas shopping. And you can RSVP at kingpleasurela.com. We have some other promotions, right, Jeanine? And I'll look at the questions if you want to talk about some of the other
And
promotions.
whereabouts in LA is this iteration of the show on?
Oh, that would help, right? Thank you.
Because it's Los Angeles now, not New York. So
Yeah. It's at the Grand, and so the Grand, it's in downtown LA. It's at the Grand, which is a recent Frank Gehry project. It's right across the street from the Disney Concert Hall, and it's a beautiful exhibition. It really is, and even for those who have seen it in New York, quite a few folks came to see it in LA because while a lot of the works, most of the works are exactly the same, the setup is so different. And one of the things that we took from the New York exhibition was that we wanted to give people the opportunity to really process and experience it along the way. So there's a really nice seating area outside where you can kind of go through and stop and really process what you're seeing, and also to be inspired by what you're seeing. We often see people who, sit outside and they'll journal, or they'll have their sketchbooks and they'll write and or draw, or or sketch things. So really nice space, and get yourself there. Downtown LA at the Grand LA.
And, for those of you, if this is some additional incentive, we're offering 20% off of the tickets through Friday, 12/15 only, with code KING20. So enter that in, and you will get 20% off on your tickets.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other announcements that we need to make, Shani? I'm going to go through here and see if I can pick out some questions.
well, I would recommend everyone buys the book as well, because I think this is like the global exhibition. This is the version of the show which everyone will be able to keep after January the 1st as well. And it's
right.
beautifully made. Like even the sides of the book are like art. It's the most exquisite. It's published by Risley, and I really recommend this. It's incredible. It's really worth buying.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
There's actually a lot of tidbits in that book that are not in the show. So you're getting a lot of family history and stories that, that you just are not getting in the show itself.
It really is a historical document. I mean, it's incredible. It's really generous, as was Jean-Michel. I mean, I think that's one of his biggest gifts, was his generosity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
that was our intention.
Available to purchase online. I think I saw someone brought that up.
So for those of you who remarked and shared that you've gone to see the show, thank you so much. We really, truly do appreciate it. We really do mean it, that our goal is to have as many people see this exhibition as possible. We've taken thousands of school children throughout the run of this exhibition. We really just want as many folks to see it as possible. Several of you asked if we were coming to LA. We really, truly read our lips. We really are shutting down King Pleasure, and I'm starting to feel it now. It's just a few weeks, and it really is, time for us to move on to other things. And thank you for everyone who's supported us. To those of you who are being mean, stop it. To those of you who shouted out Talk Art Podcast, yes, keep watching it, like and follow them. For
those who are being mean, hate only hurts the hater.
That's right. Don't be a hater.
I learned that recently. The person that hurts the most is the hater.
It only hates the hater. It only hurts the hater, and that's not what you wanted to be when you grew up. So stop it.
I learned that in New York.
Lee Jaffe, a photographer who also has an amazing book on Jean-Michel, photographs of Jean-Michel, and has photographed many people, Jean-Michel, Bob Marley, and others. He's in here and stopped in. Thank you so much for that. And I think someone said the parking is great. Come to the show. Listen to that person. And yes, the book is sold online. And I think, and again, thank you for all the really kind, beautiful words. We really do appreciate it. We as a family have, every one of us in our family, those of us that you see and those who are also part of our family, we've all had to contribute to this and invest in this in some way, whether it was listening to all these calls, or whether it was, you know, giving us time and space to work on this versus doing other things. So thank you so much to everyone who's helped us along the way, who's supported us. It's been amazing, and we've really loved and had such fun being able to be on podcasts like yours. And thank you so much. Really, this has been amazing. Okay. All right. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much. Lots of love, both of you. I'll see you soon.
Lots of love to you. Absolutely. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.